Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper. This episode is recorded with the awesome Emma Barfield. Emma is an inner leadership and energetics coach and an embodied human design reader. This is part one of two parts that I've recorded with Emma. Part two is a beautiful explanation of human design and how to read your chart. And I really wanted part one. And yes, we created part one after we created part two. That's the unusual order of things. But I really wanted part one to act as a precursor to why should we do this work. You know, we listen to podcasts about meditation or yoga or astrology or human design or any of these different modalities or ways of healing or ways of understanding ourselves. And it can seem like a nice thing to do, right? We listen to a podcast and then we just get on with our lives. But why should we do this work? You know, like, what is the outcome of doing this work? Why should we transition it from maybe just going off and getting a reading done or going to one healing session or going to one yoga class each week? Why should it transition from being an added on extra to make us feel good occasionally in our week or in our day to why should it form the basis of our own reality? Why should we do this work? Why should we be committed to understanding ourselves? And of course, I mean, you don't have to. If anything is a should, then we probably shouldn't be doing it anyway. However, it's a real invitation for you to look at how much goodness you've created in your life and how much space you create for really understanding yourself. And I don't just mean the frilly bits of, you know, understanding ourselves on a superficial level. I mean, really, really getting back to the core of who you are, beneath all of the conditioning, beneath the past, beneath the traumas, beneath all of the things that you've been told that you are, getting back to the real root of who you are. And human design is a beautiful way to do that because it's a blueprint that we understand our unique reality and our unique purpose and our unique way of being in this life and on this planet. But I really wanted you to be able to connect with why that is becoming increasingly more important as we enter into these times, and why 2020, 2021, 2022 and in the coming years is involved with this great awakening that we are experiencing on the planet right now. And there's so much polarity out there. It seems every time we turn on the news, there's people arguing, but it seems like there's so much noise and people not agreeing on things and judging one another as wrong and really blaming the other side for the way that the world is right now. But we're also seeing this real coming togetherness on the flip side of that, and people also waking up to the truth of who they are and recognizing who they are outside of who they are told they were, and asking themselves questions. You know, who am I when I take away all of these big external factors? Who am I beneath my conditioning, beneath all the things that I've been told that I am? There's definitely more people, in inverted commas, waking up right now, but what does that actually mean? What does that mean and what does that look like? And how do I facilitate more of that within myself and within those I love? Wokeness has become a little bit of a eye-rolling word. And waking up is pretty trendy right now, you know? But how do we bring that from being a superficial thing to anchoring it and embodying it into the fabric of who we are? So this chat with Emma is a real precursor to that. We talk about awakening, what that looks like, what that feels like, and why we should do this work, why we should really commit to this being the foundation of our lifestyle. And then in part two, you will understand human design as an invitation to look at your unique blueprint and how you can read your chart. And I do encourage you to maybe get a human design reading. I've had mine done a couple of times, and it's so instrumental in creating my lifestyle habits, the way that I should be working, the way that I should be utilizing my skill set and my unique individual gifts. So if you're interested in this episode and then you go on to listen to part two, I do encourage you to dig into your human design and see what magic it allows to unfold for you. This is a journey of radical self-ownership and radical self-responsibility, leading to radical self-empowerment. So kicking off this conversation with the wonderful Emma, and we'll dive straight in. It seems to be that there is more noise and polarity and chaos out there than ever, but there's also so much light entering the planet at this time as well. And we hear these big notions of it being this time of great awakening. So what do you feel is happening energetically on the planet right now?
Beautiful question. So What I honestly feel, and actually this is just to really anchor this in as to why we can use a system like human design or any of these tools, is we are all a product of our choices and our decisions in life. And I really, really love the system of human design for what it really does as a self-awareness tool, because awareness is ultimately the thing that precedes all of these choices, right? Like expanding our horizons, discovering new potentiality for our life, and starting to really lift the veil on what we might have been, just conditioned to see and conditioned to expect for ourselves. Suddenly we go, oh, there's more. Oh, I had no idea that was even available to me. Wow. And suddenly it gives us new choice, right? Which ultimately, hopefully, will lead to new and more aligned decisions. So in answer to that question, with what is happening energetically now, I just really feel like the veil is being lifted on at the most rapid rate we've probably ever experienced, right? Where suddenly, and it feels very destabilizing, let's face it. And actually, at the very same time of us feeling like things are crumbling, like down to the bare bones of like, oh, what we're really being left with is the question, well, who am I? Like, who am I really? If I can't trust these outer systems anymore, or if all of this, the way that I've outsourced my power just doesn't feel good and right, and it feels really unstable, all that's left is me, right? All that's left is me and my choice and my decision and how I create my life, right? And so it gets to be really exciting. And there's two ways of looking at it, and I think maybe you experience this as well, Megan. Certainly I have on my journey. I know my clients go through this regularly, where you kind of look out and it feels like you're just looking through this desert of all these burning ashes of like everything you've burned to the ground. Like, and you can either be like, holy, oh my God, I have just burnt everything I've ever known to the ground. I've got nothing left. It's just me, right? And it can be despair, stress, instability, all the things. Or we can say, oh my God, I've burnt everything I've ever known to the ground and it's just me. Look at all this potential for newness. And this is what I feel is happening right now, is this mass, it's an awakening and remembering, whatever we want to call it, but it's also getting us to really ask, we're really starting to look at the only source of power, which is ultimately ourselves, which is why systems such as human design or astrology or yoga or meditation, this is why people are landing in these practices more than ever, because we are being led and guided, like it's literally like someone's shaking the planet saying, what do we need to do to get these peeps to look inward, right? What do we need to do? We've got all these practices, go do them, go find yourself, right? Because this is what we need, a planet of conscious, connected, awakened individuals that ultimately come together in that, power and that inner leadership. So that's where I feel. That's what I feel is really happening right now. And we're in that we're in the middle of it, we're in this shaking up of the globe where we're like,
What does the notion of waking up mean to you? You talked about it really coming back to a place of self-empowerment and looking at kind of who am I, what role am I playing on this planet, etc. What does that notion of waking up mean to you?
It means to me personally, waking up to the truth of what I am and who I am and what I actually am made of, right? I believe, of course, we're in the realms of speaking about energy and quantum, the universe, right? Of course, we have to be when we're speaking about energetics, human design. And so it really is, we're coming away from any belief that we're bricks and mortar, right? That we are just cogs in a wheel. And of course, I always go deep diving with this, where it's like, I'm quite questioning everything all the time. But the way that we've all been conditioned from, decades and decades and decades through our lineage of being a cog in somebody else's wheel, right? Whether it's for the big corporates or whatever it is that we're told on this planet, hey, this is the way we're going to work. This is the way we're going to do things. This is what your life should look like. And we go, okay, because we haven't got any other awareness yet. We don't feel like there's other choice. And so we just go along with it. And ultimately, this is why we get to this big point in our life where we start saying, oh my goodness, who am I? What am I here for? Right? And we label this as a midlife crisis or whatever we want to call it, when really it's just that actually we're starting to hopefully become more conscious and aware of what uniquely, what we need and what we actually require. And maybe the life we've been living hasn't offered it to us so far, right? So this waking up isn't necessarily waking up to a particular agenda or waking up to a particular notion that's been pushed external. It's waking up to the truth of who you are, right? And who we all uniquely are. And that's a unique experience for every single one of us. It's not a blueprint to follow that says, this is the pathway of awakening. This is the way that you wake up, and this is what you wake up to, right? It's, if we're doing it right, we're going to feel lost because we're making and carving our own path on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, somebody used a really wonderful analogy that I loved the other day, which is when you are creating your own path, it feels like you don't know what the next steps are because you are literally creating it. Like you are building it brick by brick yourself, and you get to decide what that looks like.
Yes, that's the good old Joseph Campbell quote. I think it's Joseph Campbell, where it's, if you can see the path laid out in front of you, it's not your path, right? And the only way that you know that you're on the right path is exactly that, when you can't effing see it, where it's like, I'm just making my way through the woods. Yes, you are. We all are here. When we're all going to get to the top of that mountain, then it's so much better to go our unique way, So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I love that word unique because I feel like it resonates so much with human design. It really being this permission slip to step into our uniqueness. So within the notion of waking up to our unique truth, how does human design play into that? And perhaps we could just have as a prequel to that question, what exactly is human design? For somebody who doesn't know what the fuck human design is, or this is the first time you've ever heard it, what exactly is human design?
I like to describe it as a self-awareness tool. It takes into account all of the planetary placements of the exact moment in time that you were born. And so we're really looking at astrology here hugely within this system, but it also takes into account lots of other incredible modalities. So the I Ching, quantum physics, the Kabbalah, which is part of the Tree of Life, and also the chakra system. It's absolutely a synthesis of these incredible systems. So it's ultimately starting to look at how you are uniquely wired, how your energy uniquely flows through you. And ultimately, what we're actually doing, this is why I opened this with, we're all a product of our choices. Now, this system really gives us the insight for this. And actually, just on the most simple level, that is the way that we want to use it. We want to know what is uniquely us, what is our inherent nature. How does our energy uniquely flow through us? And actually, how are we wired to make decisions? And that's really, even on a baseline, if you dive into human design, it doesn't matter how complex the system gets. It wants you to be experimenting with your unique energy so that you can ultimately make the best decisions for your life. Every single one of us are conditioned right from the word go, right? We come out and we're being conditioned by parents, by caregivers, by society, by our friends, by conversations in the home, the environment that we're in. Everything is conditioning us and we're starting to move into, following certain trajectories. We're starting to look to our friends and caregivers in society for advice on how we stay safe ultimately, and how we show up in the world, how we are celebrated, how we are loved, what's safe for us to, and how is it safe for us to, express. All of these things they're taking in as our, the way that we think we should show up. And so maybe that's correct, right? Maybe it's completely correct. But also, when we're starting to look at the system of human design, it gives us an opportunity to go, just for a minute, let's just pretend. So my human design chart, let's just use any example. It says on my human design chart, I'm someone that's got an activated throat. And actually, I've got a flow of energy from this set, from my emotions to my throat, meaning I should technically be able to express my emotions really consciously into the world. Except I actually do the opposite. I actually feel like I don't have a voice. I feel terrified to use it. I feel terrified to express my emotions because I've been taught at some level that that's really wrong for me to do that. And I'm really not safe when I do that. And so suddenly we can see, hey, well, this is a potential place for you to find some liberation, and look at the way that you've created a story around not being able to speak because your inherent nature suggests something different. And so imagine if you liberated yourself and could move that energy, how would that feel within you? Would you access more flow? Would you feel like you were then ultimately called in, expanded your awareness and were able to make better decisions in your life, or aligned decisions? And so ultimately, this is really what we can start looking at on the charts. They get so in depth. I think in a nutshell, just keep it simple. Human design, self-awareness system to show us the potential of our inherent nature and how it is we can make more aligned decisions for our life.
Mm-hmm. So for somebody that's looking at these, in inverted commas, awakening tools like meditation or yoga or human design or astrology or anything, how would you speak to somebody who's seeing those things as a nice additional added extra into their current life, as opposed to this is really a path that I want to step onto? How would you encourage somebody to take that leap? What would you say is on the other side of taking that leap?
Well, what we're really speaking about there is embodiment, right? Or at least that's what I'm hearing. And so there is, of course, a huge difference. I meet so many people that will be like, oh, I know about yoga. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know about meditation. Oh, I've heard about breath work as well. Yeah. Oh, do you practice those things? I have, yeah, of course. Yeah, I've done yoga once, and I've done a bit of breath, right? And that's great, right? It's great, but we can do better, right? And I really, really like holding quite a strict space for myself, and also for anyone that starts to come into my field, where it's like, what is stopping us from living and breathing this work now? Right? Because actually this is part of this, let's say, quote unquote, awakening. We are starting to need more embodied people in this world. And you know what, the other day, I'd seen this shared, and it didn't share where this quote had come from, but it was really lovely. And it was talking about embodiment. And it said, embodiment is anchoring the vision in the body, which I so loved, right? Embodiment is anchoring the vision in the body. And so when we are starting to come into this realm, and I know that there are steps, when we're starting to venture out of what we know, as in when we start expanding our awareness through the tools such as breathwork and meditation and yoga, we're really starting to get a sniff and a sampling of what it feels like to truly be in this connection with ourselves. There's a reason why it feels so bloody good when we've moved through a breathwork practice or a yoga practice, or we've meditated. Yes, of course, it's the science of energy. When you're working with practitioners that are trained in this, there's a reason, yes, that you feel great. But the more that you do it, you're building faith in yourself. You're starting to get the body strong. It's the stages of hatha yoga, right? It's purification of the body. It's getting the body strong. The vehicle that we hold, that we have, healthy and vibrant. I love a quote, but the body is the soul's chance to be here, right? It really starts with the body. And so use these practices to get the body fortified, strong. It's then that it starts moving into the second stage, is this rising of energy and this awareness of energy, where we suddenly start saying, actually, I feel, this makes me feel, I feel really great here. And actually now I've got the contrast. I know that in these areas of my life, I don't feel that great anymore. And we suddenly get a choice. Do I continue down this route of not feeling so good and right? Or do I actually continue down this other space that I'm feeling better in, that actually I do feel aligned in? I feel excited by my life actually here in this new way. How can I bring in more things to allow me to, experience something different in my life? And I think this is where it really is, for anyone that's on the threshold right now of stepping into a new way. It feels 2022 is the energy. It's been loud and clear to be stepping in, right? We need embodied practitioners now. We're all looking for more authenticity, and we're drawn to it, in frequency, where it's like, we know when someone's full of crap and we know when someone is like walking the talk. This is the year now that we don't need people just toe dipping anymore, trying out, try it. And I'll go and feel good for a hot minute, but I'm still going to go and do all the rest of the things in my life that don't feel good anymore. We need people to be brave and courageous and start stepping more into, no, that doesn't feel good. That lifestyle isn't good for me anymore. I'm not good there. That's actually do the thing, bring the practices in, find my peeps that support me, that see me, that hold the vision that I hold. And let's be in this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess what you're saying is like human design and understanding our uniqueness and our authentic self and giving ourselves permission to really step beyond our conditioning and our programming. It's like a gateway portal into a lot of this work and the opportunity to build your path brick by brick for yourself. And in addition to it just being a gateway and a permission slip, and then, finish with human design, now I step forward. It's actually an invitation to create a lifestyle and boundaries for yourself and a blueprint for the life that really will allow you to be most magnetic and will allow you to bring in everything that your soul is seeking within this lifetime. So it's like a gateway and an invitation, but at the same time, a blueprint for a brand new lifestyle that is really, really suited to exactly who you are at your core.
Yes, I love that. And it is that. It's prosperity, abundance, magnetism. They are a byproduct of you living in your truth, right? And like we want that at the forefront. If there's any metric that we ought to be using now, it's not money or how big a home we've got, how many things we have. It's actually on how toned our nervous system is, as in how healthy our nervous system feels, how in flow our life is. How do we feel about the things that we have in the first place? Like, do we really love getting up in the morning? Like, truly? Do we actually like what we do? What are we contributing to the world? What is our contribution that wants to move through us, right? And these are all of the things that we can really start querying or starting to become aware of with human design. Of course, there's no such thing as the system that is, the one ring to rule them all. All of these tools are getting us to just start to really ask deeper questions, ask more of ourselves, ask more of our lives, and really gives us the confidence to do that and the awareness to do that, rather than being driven by a need for something external to feel like it gives us a sense of power or a sense of connection. It's actually being driven by truth. Let that be the thing that drives us, and actually all of these other things happen as a byproduct of us living in that alignment. It is the same that when we, even with some of the phrases with human design, they call it living your design, like the great experiment, right? The great play. It's not to say, right, this is exactly who you are. I need you living out gate 6 and bloody your moon is activating this number. And you're like, okay, I better live like that. It gives us an idea to just play. Like, imagine, like, again, using the example I did earlier, that story that you've cultivated, that you're not great at speaking and you don't have a voice and no one wants to hear you. Imagine just for a hot minute that you were going to play in the field of being fully expressed, being able to truly step into the voice and know that who is meant to receive your message will. And imagine that. And suddenly someone goes, okay, well, let's just go and play with that for a minute. Let's go into my life and actually stop with the story that I've had placed on me by experiences and conditions in life. And I'm just going to go out into my life and actually start speaking. Let's just see. And again, it's all of these tools that we start to play with that brings us into deeper states of alignment, which again can ultimately only lead to true prosperity. And that's prosperity within self. It's freedom of self. That's ultimately what we're looking for. This is what people normally think, oh, I just want all that money. Well, no, it's not about the money. It's about who you got to become in the process of holding that.
Yeah. Everybody goes after goals and has an idea of what they want in the physical realm. We take action steps towards that. But what a lot of people miss is looking at the energy beneath that, looking at like who I need to become energetically, and then all of the stepping stones will be there type thing. But we focus on the physical. I desire this, I need to do this, this, and this, and then wonder why it doesn't happen, because we haven't actually changed the energy with which we are approaching our manifestation of those goals. Human design is that opportunity to really look at energetically where we're at and energetically where we'd like to be, and an opportunity to create that shift and that leap for ourselves.
Yes, the quantum leap. That's literally what that is, right? We want a quantum leap. And it's funny, because, especially, I love that we're actually recording this now in January, because this is the time that people are setting up goals, and then, you might call it, change it and say it's an intention. But ultimately it sets us up in a really strange way, right? Because ultimately what we're saying is we don't have that yet, right? And so we're sending out the energy, the energetics that we're coding in are, we don't have that thing yet. We don't have the money yet. We don't have the job yet. We don't have the thing yet. And so we're still keeping a space. We're still keeping that dissonance, that disconnect between us and the goal. And if we really truly want a quantum leap, we've got to really work with this embodiment of anchoring the vision now into the body now, right? And this is where we collapse that timeline. We collapse all of the ways that we're like, oh yeah, by the end of the year, I want this, right? No, we get to start anchoring it in now with the daily things that we do, those tiny habits, micro moves, macro results, right? How do we move now? And so this is what I mean. 2022 is not the year for toe dipping and being like, oh, I'll do that yoga practice once every couple of weeks, right? Maybe yoga is not your thing, by the way, cool. But anything, right? I'll try the juice. I'll do one juice a month. I'll have a vegetable here and there. I'll drink a bit of water if I have to. No, we are in the space now where we are genuinely being called up. We're being asked, step into deeper states of alignment and embodiment now, because your body is your soul's chance to be here. Right? I know I've said that already, but it is. We've all got the chance to start harnessing our actual innate power. But it doesn't start with the over there mentality. It has to be, what can I do now? How can I live it now? How can I bring this energy in now? Collapse those timelines, baby.
So if more and more people step into this work and into their unique truth, what is your vision? And this just be a last question. What is your vision of how the world would be if more and more people really step into this work?
I love that question. So at the moment, and I definitely, of course, this is not a truth. This is literally just the way I'm working with this or seeing it. We all have a unique role to play, to be looking at the gift and starting to move through denser energies on our unique missions that we're all holding, to, turn them into something higher, turn them into something more powerful, find the gift within the shadow, which there always is. And ultimately, that creates this ripple effect where, imagine if everyone on the planet was starting to raise in their own vibration and raise in their own frequency. It's a togetherness, it's a coming together, it's a unity, a uniting in our power, not in the shadow, right? At the minute, there's so many of us that are in resonance because we are connected via shadow and we're connected via darkness, and this just on a normal level, right? We know that it's a classic saying through the coaching sphere, we are the byproduct of the top 5 people that we spend the most time around. When we're starting this work and we're starting to shift in frequency and, building our awareness, and we suddenly start recognizing, oh, I don't connect anymore with that level of gossip. I actually can't talk about the things that I've been talking about now. I don't want to connect with issues. I don't want that to be the level of conversation that I have. Now I'm starting this and building my awareness. I'm actually in resonance of, I want to have conversations about soul purpose. I want to talk about the vision that I have. I just believe so much in the power of the individual rising and what that really means. Because as soon as we all start rising, imagine if it wasn't just one of your mates that you met on Instagram that you could speak to about your visions. Imagine if you could gather, and I say imagine, it does happen all over the world. Massive communities are gathering and building right now of people and visionaries that are holding down and anchoring in a new way of experiencing life. I'm seeing it. We know that we've got these big communities in the UK, Texas, Ibiza, Bali. I've got lots of people all over the world that you're seeing these massive gatherings of people starting to come together and say, I'm not buying the old paradigm stuff. When we are in a certain resonance, we bring in more people that are in a similar resonance. And so again, when we start to raise our own individual frequency, based on our ability to become emotionally aware, build the awareness that we have for self, the way that we show up in the world, the way that we contribute, what our intention is, moving from our heart frequency. It's only going to bring in more people. And again, it just has this profound ripple effect. So yeah, that's what I get excited about, is the individual liberation for ultimately that collective, fighting collectively with that. We're really coming out of this way where it's been like survival of the fittest, competition, like, oh my God, if my mate's doing really well, that only shines light on me not doing good. And we're seeing it now, beautiful people can actually look at their friends and their people around them and celebrate them. They want to see them win. They want to see them expand. They want to see them hold wealth and move into different, areas of their life with spaciousness and grace. And yeah, because it means that that's a potential for them too. It doesn't mean, oh, it's a lack because there's, we've got a limited source of funding available. It's like, it's exciting.
Love it. Love it. Anybody who's feeling really activated and excited to meet your most unique self, do go on to part 2, where Emma gives you a full rundown of how to read your chart and shares all of her magic with us. So thank you so much, my love. And we'll see you in part 2.
Thank you so much. Yes, see you in part 2.